Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm late today. There were a
Sure.
few things that happened to me this morning. One, we got about 8 inches of snow yesterday, but then on top of the snow, we got like a half inch to almost like an inch of ice. So
Oh,
there's
wow.
like 8 inches of snow, and then there's an inch of ice. And one of my dogs was having a lot of problems just like getting into the yard today. Like, she was falling over all over the porch. As soon as she got outside, she just started falling over. She couldn't, like, get her footing. So then I had to, put on my boots, put on a coat, and I um, carried the dog into the yard so that she could, do her business this morning. So that's how my morning started off was, walking through and crunching through 8 inches of ice and snow so that my dog could go to the bathroom.
That's kind of crazy. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No, that sucks though. Like really. I mean, I want to jokingly talk about the snow and whatnot, but like the ice mixture on top of that,
The
that leads to many dangerous things. So that really sucks. I hated ice
Yeah.
so much when I was back home. I mean, snow is one thing, but again, like the ice is the other. And I remember one day too, um, like I couldn't get to work one day. I mean, it was kind of a blessing, you know. I mean, who wants to go to work? But like one day, I literally couldn't get into my car because of the ice. It was so thick, I couldn't even open my door. So that sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, no ice for me. It's currently right now in at 7:10 a.m. 58 degrees. So the high today is 74.
Yeah, it's 25 here right now, so it's not, like, crazy cold.
It's 25 degrees.
Yeah. It could be colder. It could be
Oh,
colder.
I don't miss
Um,
that.
but yeah, the ice is gonna be rough. Hopefully, I mean, I work from home, so I've got, like, all day here, but I do have, like, a 3-hour drive I need to make later today. So
Good luck.
we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Uh
Yeah.
man. Well, I mean, I guess it is January, what now, 6th. So we're like in the heart of winter, but here's the good news though. Like it's on the upswing. Every day now is going to be brighter, longer than the day before. And we're like, what, 5 weeks out from pitchers and catchers? It's kind of it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Not much to actually talk about baseball wise or, especially Pittsburgh Pirate wise, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah. Not a lot happening.
No.
I mean, but since winter meetings, I think we've had the Andrew McCutchen signing, and I want to say that's it. And that was a month ago. So in the
Yeah.
last month,
Some
this
claims,
team
I feel like that's
has
about it.
signed Andrew McCutchen. Yeah, I'm looking at the transaction page. There's the Spencer Horwitz trade. That was December 10th. So that was almost a month ago. And then there's a minor league deal. Oh, they traded for Emmanuel Valdez. There was that.
Mhm. Mhm.
They released Trey Cabbage so that he could go play overseas. And Andrew McCutchen signed with the Pirates. So yeah, not a lot happening at all.
They teased us, Jim. We thought because of all the action that was happening early on this year, opposed to other years, in MLB. I mean, we've been used to and accustomed to just the offseason just prolonging. The winter meetings was all about action, and it seems like anymore the past few years, it's just been a dud, in terms of moves and signings. And this year it was lit. I mean, before the winter meetings it started, the winter meetings happened, and there was a lot of action happening, and we were hopeful. You know what? Stuff's happening earlier. We're going to have a glorious offseason to talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates. They made a big trade, so they kicked off the offseason, in the winter meetings as well. Things are falling in place because that's the thing too. Like the big names hold up all the other signings, Jim. That's why the Pirates don't happen. Things don't happen early for them because they have to wait for the real players to do their stuff. And they did. And like you mentioned, here we are almost a month later, and we got the obvious Andrew McCutchen signing. And
Yeah.
and I'm bored. I don't know. But here's and ironically too, like most of the NL Central has been the same way. Like this isn't just exclusively a Pittsburgh Pirates thing. But we talk about the Pirates. We want to tell you about the Pirates and our thoughts and opinions on the Pirates. And nothing's changed in 26 days. So here we are rehashing the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about some new stuff here this morning, but yeah, it's just they're not even like really linked to anybody. I mean, there's one guy saying that there's a connection with Alex Verdugo. Like Robert Murray said something about Alex Verdugo. Bucko Mike's in the comments talking about Jorge Polanco, but all I saw yesterday about Jorge Polanco was some anonymous random Twitter account with like 4 followers tweet about it. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to talk about Jorge Polanco, Bucko Mike. So like, yeah, there's just nothing going on. Nothing going on. You're not hearing about like, oh, it would make sense for the Pirates to trade for this guy, or like this guy's on the trading block and the Pirates are interested. Like there's none of that. Like last year, we at least had the whole Edward Cabrera debacle that we got to at least it got us talking a little bit. I don't know if it was ever really that close, but it got, people were talking about it. But this year, yeah, they're not linked to anybody. And the one person they have been linked to, which is Alex Verdugo, is like the most lackluster, unexciting possible corner outfield acquisition that's available out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jim, before we do go any further, though, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. And like you said, like the annoying thing about it is they're not linked to anybody. And again, that's more for like our entertainment and our value of like being able to talk and discuss things and whatnot. But also like, I mean, they are very tight-lipped. That's been the case all the time, So like that doesn't necessarily tell you that nothing's going to happen or there's no links to them anywhere, right? That's kind of the Pirates' MO. But yes, going back to the Alex Verdugo one, that's something that is kind of like out there and you can see like the writing on the wall for that happening. But to me, Jim, like that screams like where we were in 2023 when we were talking about like, well, the G-Man Choi, like, you know what? Hey, it's a real major leaguer. Like at this point in time, it's the bare minimum we wanted, but at least they did it. Like you were kind of like, hey, at least we're going in this direction finally. At least they're making moves that do make the team better. That is like a major leaguer, a veteran. You know what? Like, not terrible. That's kind of like the problem with this move to me. This is back in 2023 when we were happy that, hey, you know what? This is like the minimum we wanted to do, and they're actually doing it. So you're happy about that. You got to move past that. You gotta push your foot on the accelerator and actually do something that's meaningful and impactful, not like hey, that's a real major leaguer. And that's just where I'm at with Alex Verdugo. Like, yeah, like last year, I feel like was a down season for him and he could bounce back. But like, what's the rate of that bounce back? A one WAR player? You know what I mean? Like, okay, he might hit about average and give you some pretty good defense, but cool. You're excited because, hey, you know what? We added an actual major leaguer because we haven't been able to do that in the outfield for the past decade.
Yeah. Alex Verdugo hasn't put up a 2 WAR season since 2019. he hasn't been an average hitter since 2022. He's been bad the last 2 years. Like, he's been a bad baseball player.
Right.
So, like, you can go acquire Alex Verdugo and hope for a bounce back, but then what are you doing any different this year than what you did in 2023 or 2024 or 2022? You're just acquiring bottom of the barrel free agents to fill in rosters, and that's not where this team is at this moment in time. They can't be going after guys like that. They
Right.
can't be. Like, Alex Verdugo, he may be better than the current option, and honestly, I have my doubts on that. Like, I would probably prefer Alex Verdugo in the outfield as opposed to Joshua Palacios or Jack Swinski, just because he's got a little bit more of a track record.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I couldn't tell you definitively that right now in the year 2025 that Alex Verdugo is better than Joshua Palacios.
I
In
feel,
their current stage.
yeah. I mean, I feel confident that he is.
I don't.
Like, I'll say that, but the thing is, like, it's not as if it's massive. Can I
There's
see
not a big
Joshua
difference.
Palacios going out there and being a 0 WAR player? Yes. Can I see Alex Verdugo going out there being a 0 WAR player? Yes. But I can definitely see Alex Verdugo like bouncing back and have like a 1 WAR season. I don't know if I really can. Guys, again, like, you know how I feel. I'm a vibes guy. But let's go back to last year and the year before. Like, he's simply not that good of a baseball player. There's a reason why he's 29 years old, and you're wondering if he can. Like, we're asking about this again. Like, Joshua Palacios just simply isn't that guy. So, yes, I do feel more confident that Verdugo is a better baseball player. But again, it's not as if it's like leaps and bounds, and to answer his question here, he has, about, playing devil's advocate and wouldn't he likely be like a run prevention approach. And yes, like there is some of that. 7 defensive runs saved last year, 2 outs above average. That's what's getting at. Like, the defensive side of it is better, but this isn't like I'm going all out for the defense. You know what I mean? Like, he's above average. He's better than what's out there. But this isn't like, hey, you know what our strategy is going to be is we're going to sell out on defense. He's better, yes, but it's not as if like he's like the defensive guru out there, and that's why you're going. He's a bit better.
He's a
Above average.
guy. Like, at this point, he's a guy. And I think he could definitely help defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, at this point, you need someone to hit the ball. You need someone who's going to hit the ball. The Pirates' problem is hitting the ball. Neil said it on the point 2 weeks ago, where he mentioned, like, who in the infield's an issue when it comes to power. Like, there's no one in this infield that you can trust to hit more than 12 to 15 homers over the course of a 162 game season. And then you've got Reynolds and Cruz. That's it. That's it. Like, that's it. You can maybe sprinkle Joey Bart in there and say, you're probably going to at least get double-digit homers out of him. But, like, we're talking about a team that is almost completely void of power. And Verdugo doesn't solve that problem. Like, you need someone who's going to give you 20 plus home runs to man another corner outfield spot.
Like, think about that approach. It's not. It's funny because I brought this up to Fort on one of the Fort Fridays. Like, when was the last time the Pirates? I think it was like in the past 25 years, the Pirates have had one offense that was league average or higher. And it was one of the 2013, 14, 15. But it was only also in that stretch, only one time the Pirates had an above average offense opposed to the rest of the league. So, like, it could be done where you don't have like this great offense. You're taking the approach, and we knew about that. It was all about like runs prevention, right? But even back then, like, if you're stacking up to the best of the Pirates was below average, Marte, Kutch, Polanco, or in the platoons they had, like, there were still like those three, especially at that time, could handle the bat. You're talking Reynolds now, who, yes, absolutely. And now there's Cruz out there. And what? And Reynolds' defense is already it's bad. Like it's nowhere near anywhere where Polanco's, Kutch's, and Marte's was back then. If you're looking to exclude the outfield, right? So like for the run prevention
Polanco's?
thing, I
Maybe
think
back then.
Polanco's
Back
was
then, maybe. Yeah.
still better than Reynolds right
Yeah.
now.
Back
Yes.
then.
But like again, if you're looking about back then, but still, like you had Neil, you had Pedro, like providing power. You had Russ Martin back there.
Yeah. You had the catchers. Yeah.
Like there was still bats. Like again, like we we're getting at, like if you wanted to sell out for like this run prevention, well, you also have a Reynolds on the team. You have some guys that aren't that great. IKF is okay at short. This is like way worse than the offense was back then still. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the problem here. Like you still have to have some type of offense. And I mean, yeah, when it comes to power, like it's not Horowitz. He could be an above average hitter. We understand that, but it's not coming because of the power department. It's coming because like the on base hit tool. It's probably not Nick Gonzalez. It ain't IKF. It's not Brian Hayes. It's Joey Bart. You mentioned could get you double digits. That's fine. But is he going to be like the third leading home run hitter on this team? That's
he
a
basically,
problem.
yeah, I guess you got to throw Andrew McCutchen in the mix too, but you're probably looking at him taking a step back in playing time this year, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what can you really? I mean, you can probably expect 15 homers out of Kutch. I think that's fair. You know, we saw 20 last year, but yeah, like you've got to hit the ball over the fence if you're wanting to score runs in today's offensive environment. It's too hard to string singles together. It's too hard to do that over the course of a 162 game season with consistency. There's too many strikeouts nowadays. Like there's too many relief pitchers who can come in and just get out of a jam with strikeout. You need someone to hit the ball over the fence and drive in runs and produce offense. And they seriously lack that ability right now. So
it's not as if they have a bunch of contact guys either to do the opposite. Like if
yeah,
their
it's like
approach
we're not
was
talking about a team full of
stringing
300
together
hitters.
singles.
Yeah.
Right.
So how are they going to solve this, DiNardo?
Well, I don't know how they're going to solve it, but we have some ideas. You know,
Yeah.
we have talked about some things. I think that's what this show is going to present, right? Like we're going to talk more of maybe the guys that we haven't talked too much of. I mean, some that have been like linked, like your Taylor Wards. I mean, they've been linked since last trade deadline, even beforehand. I feel like in the offseason, Taylor Ward. So that's a guy we haven't really talked too much, at least since like the trade deadline of last year. Luis Robert, bring him back up. Another guy who we talked a lot in the trade deadline last year. Maybe talk a little about him. There's some Diamondback outfielder. So yeah, like there's still some ways the Pirates can, if they choose to, approach this. That's better than Alex Verdugo. So I guess where do you want to start? Do we want to start with Luis Robert?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I've been thinking about this last couple of days, and well, let's just start with a quick Anthony Santander blip. I think he's probably the one. There's two remaining free agents where it's like, okay, this could be an impact guy. Santander's the first one. I think he's more of a safer option. I think he's a really good fit for this team too. Like I think he gives you everything that you need. I'd maybe prefer that that he was maybe a little bit younger. I mean, he's 30. I would prefer. Actually, he's a perfect fit. The switch hitting ability, the ability to hit from both sides of the plate, the ability to hit the ball over the fence. Like it doesn't get better than Anthony Santander. The problem with Santander is that he's a perfect fit for a lot of teams because he's good. And you aren't going to see, you just simply aren't going to see the Pirates outbid a serious baseball team to get the services of Anthony Santander.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen. Like Ben can probably go as high as he possibly could go here, and there's going to be someone else who would go higher, and there's going to be someone else who hasn't had 3 winning seasons in the last 30 years that can go to Anthony and Santander and go, hey, don't go to the team that's a bunch of losers. Come to the team that wins every once in a while. So as much as Santander would be just the absolute perfect fit, it's not happening.
Big Jake says plot twist. Dodgers got him already.
Yeah. Watch you go to the Dodgers. Dodgers are just going to sign everybody.
Right.
But I think there's something to look at with Santander. I think some of the teams that are in on him are, may. So there's a few things here. Do you wait until he signs to figure something out, or do you go ahead and do something now? Because I think if you wait until he signs, you could see yourself perhaps get presented with some opportunities to acquire someone from the team he signs with. And we can kind of get into those later on, but there's some teams out there where, yeah, Santander would be an upgrade over what they've got, or like they've got someone on an expiring deal where it's like, hey, let's bring Santander in, but we can trade this guy who is in his last year of his contract. I think there's maybe some options there, kind of depending on, again, what happens. Like, if the Angels sign Anthony Santander, does Taylor Ward become much more available all of a sudden? Or if the Giants sign Santander, does Mike Yastrzemski become much more available at that moment? So there's that aspect to it. But the other free agent to talk about would be Jurickson Profar. I don't think Jurickson Profar is ever going to put up the type of season that he put up last year.
Sure.
And there's certainly some reasons to be a little bit cautious. I mean, he's had a strange last 4 seasons. He's gone negative 0.2 WAR, 2.4 WAR, negative 1.6 WAR, 4.3 WAR. Like, it's been bad, good, bad, good. So, like, if you sign him, do you get the bad version? I don't know. The peripherals, like the expected stats, everything looks real from him last year. So there really aren't a ton of red flags just in his profile, but it's just his history where you're like, who are you paying for? Are you paying for 4.3 WAR Jurickson Profar? Are you paying for 2.4 WAR Jurickson Profar? Are you going to get the negative 1.6 WAR? Because then that would be a complete disaster. So it's just like there's just, I think there's a lot more risk with Profar. But I mean, if you ask me, say, like, is it a risk worth taking? Probably. Like, at this point, probably. And he's probably in the Pirates price range.
Oh, he should
realistically. He should be.
He should be. But I'm like cautious on that because I I don't know, Jim. We keep talking about like what this cap should be on, like their payroll. What they think, what we think the high is, right? And we're talking like probably like right under 100 million. And I'm not so sure that's the case. Like just the way it seems like they're operating. I mean, again, could be wrong, right? Could be wrong. By mid-March, we could be talking about this signing and that signing, and hey, there it is. But at this point in time, it just seems as if they're struggling. The reason we haven't talked about anyone since Horowitz is because they are just struggling to make the move because they don't have any money to spend. But either way, what you say, correct. I mean, I would take Santander in a second. Probably not going to happen because he's looking at the Pirates team right now and saying, okay, even if they're magically offering the same offer, well, you're not going to give me the same amount of money to go here. I get the same amount of money to go to the Giants or the Angels or Toronto. And there's some differences there, right? But like historically, maybe outside the Angels, right, for the past decade or so, like those teams have been better and more productive. And maybe I'll go there instead of the Pirates because, again, like we're talking about, right? Like they've made their bed. They've shown that they can't be good. They can't be competitive. They have no desire to. So why would I choose to take that risk to be there if I have other options, right? Like that's what some players may think. So like there's real reason to believe that. So yeah, like going to the trade market, like you're talking about, that could certainly happen. Taylor Ward, like you mentioned, like that could definitely make him. The Angels seem like they're in on him. The Blue Jays seem like they're in on him potentially. I've heard Detroit potentially as well.
Detroit's in on a lot of people, and they've signed some guys already.
Right. Amazing what can happen when you find yourself at the end of the rebuild. So yeah. But with Profar, like I'm real hesitant also. Like I get what you're saying, like it's a risk that the Pirates should take and such, but like I don't know. Because again, they put themselves in this situation, but it's like they're putting all the eggs in the basket here with him because it's not that talented. Like when you go out there and get one of these guys, you're hoping that it works because it has to, because like this is the only real move, like outside of Horowitz, who also has some risk, but we feel like it's okay. This is it. Like this is the guy that you make this deal because you're going to the playoffs with them. Because it's one guy. It seems that's like it's one guy. We're not here talking about Profar and Santander or Profar and some shortstop or so, you know what I mean? Like this is it. And if Profar doesn't have that good of a season, if he's Edward Olivares again, like then what's much different from this team than last year? Not a whole lot.
Yeah. And let me add this too, but like with Profar, the issue that you run into is like if it doesn't work, like you're stuck with them for another 2 years too, and paying him a lot of money, which then affects your 2026 team and it affects your 2027 team. So I get it. Like I think it's definitely a risk. It's a risk that I would probably take, but it's not my first choice. It's certainly not my first choice. But like you've got to do something. You got to do something because right now the team currently constructed, it's not a playoff team. Last year the team won 76 games. You're gonna have to improve by at least probably let's call it 11 wins to like feel pretty comfortable. Where are we seeing an 11-win improvement on this team? I mean, I guess you could say you hope that David Bednar bounces back. So there's a couple blown saves that are back in your pocket. You can hope that a couple people take incremental steps forward. But like we're talking about an 11-win improvement from last year's team, and it's just right now it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist unless like a whole lot of people get better all at the same time. There's no regression. Everybody, and when we talk about internal improvements, everybody just internally improves a win. If the whole roster gets one win better, then you know what? There we go. We did it. But like that doesn't happen. It's not a realistic thing to do so. So you've got to do something, and it's got to be a risk. Now, I don't think Profar is the risk that I would take. My number one choice at this point, and it's in the title here, should the Pirates trade for Luis Robert? Outside of Anthony Santander, actually even throw in Anthony Santander, there's no one else available in the outfield market that is capable of putting a season together the way Luis Robert can. No one. No available bat is going to give you what 2023 Luis Robert gave you. None of them. 38 homers, 20 stolen bases, 128 weighted runs created plus, great defense in the outfield, 5-win season. There's no one who's going to give that to you. He's also in a pretty good spot contract-wise, where like he's making $15 million this year. Guess what? If he sucks, you don't have to pick up his team options. Like you can just get yourself rid of the money. But guess what? If it works out, then you've got Luis Robert in 2026 for $20 million. And then if that doesn't work out, you don't have to pick up the other option. If it does, then you've got him in 2027 for $20 million. So I think from a contract standpoint, he makes a lot of sense because he's not someone that you're necessarily committing to long term. But I know last year wasn't the season that you wanted to see out of a guy like Luis Robert. It was rough. He was hurt. He came back. He didn't look good. He struck out a lot. The power was still there, but you saw the defense take a little bit of a step back. Offensively, he just wasn't hitting the ball. But he's 27 years old. He clearly has the talent. He's shown you he has the talent. I think he's just like, at this point, you've got three options. You can go out there and you can just do the status quo and just find someone who's better than Joshua Palacios. And guess what? You're probably not making the playoffs if you do that. If you go out there and find a 1.5 WAR corner outfielder to sign for $8 million, $10 million, you're not making the playoffs. You could go out there and you could trade for Luis Robert, and it might cost you Thomas Harrington plus. And guess what? He could suck, and you could not make the playoffs. Or you could go out there and get Luis Robert. He could put up the type of season that you want to see from Luis Robert, and the Pirates make the playoffs. Only one of those three situations, DiNardo, ends with the Pirates making the playoffs, and it's the one where you've acquired Luis Robert and it works.
Yeah.
So just do it. Just do it. The only two names that are off limits as far as my minor league system goes, I wouldn't trade Bubba and I wouldn't trade Griffin. But everyone else is available.
And you're likely not trading Griffin. Like teams are probably not calling the Pirates to get Griffin. Just put it that way. So that makes sense. It does, Jim. And this isn't me saying anything negative about Luis Robert in this aspect. I think he's a good player. I mean, talk about last trade deadline. He had a really, really rough year last year. And maybe that plays into the favor. Maybe that makes him more available. Maybe that makes the price point a little bit better for the Pirates, in trading or in any other team that's trying to acquire him. Because it's well, hey, he was bad last year. He's not coming off a 4-win season. So now the White Sox are able to ask for the world for him. It's well, hey, he's owed for the next 3 years $55 million if you want him for all 3 years that he's controlled for. And he was a bad player last year. So I can't ask for a Bubba Chandler in this aspect, right? So that plays into the Pirates' favor. But also with the Pirates side of this, Jim, I know you're saying the contract makes sense and he's 15 and 20 and 20, but when have the Pirates had a $20 million guy?
They will next year.
The reason we're talking about this is because they won't acquire through free agency a $20 million guy. So also to play devil's advocate, right? Can Santander give you a Luis Robert season? No, he can't. He just simply can't because of the entire package that Robert presents that he can give you. But do you think Santander is going to give you a below 1 WAR season? Could Robert?
It's happened before.
So there you go. So Santander doesn't have the ceiling, but he has the floor. It's the Profar situation to some level, right? I'm not, by no means am I saying Luis Robert is Profar, right? I'm not making that comparison, but the idea of it, he presents that variable. You could get him and he could be bad. And now I understand, you're saying, you could, at least you're not with Profar, you have him for 2 more years. You could cut bait with Robert. So the financial risk going forward isn't as bad, but then what did you give up to get him? So I also wonder too, what does it matter? What are the Pirates? What are the White Sox looking for? It's not going to cost too much because of the contract. Is there a way maybe the Pirates can have it paid down a little bit? Is there a way that the White Sox can kick money? Maybe they upgrade that package because again, is it a Harrington going to cost it? A Harrington and maybe some really, really lower prospect, right? Can get a Robert deal done. Maybe they have a Harrington and a secondary prospect that's a little better and they kick in some money. Maybe that's an option the Pirates can do here that makes them feel a little bit more better, especially this year. Because again, I understand about $15 million this year, Jim. I don't think the Pirates have that in them. We think it's doable. We know it's doable, but I don't think Bob Nutting wants that to be doable. I don't think he's allowing it to happen, to fit in this, unless you trade Mitch Keller.
Tenier's making him the
So
problem.
I'm for Luis Robert. I think again, like defensively, and you know what I like it too about it is it's kind of like a backup option for you. It's like a plan B if this Cruz in center field does not work out. Luis Robert can play center field, or also like the days he takes a day off, you can put Luis Robert out there in center field. Like you feel fine. You know what I mean? Like there's another guy that can play defensively in center field on this team now because really there's zero on the team. You're just hopeful that Cruz knows how to do it and does it. But currently there's zero.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I think from a money standpoint, let's go. If we rewind to the Spencer Horwitz trade, I liked the trade. I was like, you know what? They just acquired what looks to be a major league first baseman for that they don't have to spend any money on, league minimum $750,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the reason why you make a trade like this to acquire a first baseman who can plug that hole for basically no money is that you can now go and you can spend a larger chunk on the corner outfielder that you need. So like they've got to do that. They can't acquire Spencer Horwitz and then half-ass corner outfield. They've got to go out there and make a splash with this corner outfield situation. And Luis Robert just seems like he's the guy. And I don't know what Chicago's asking. I saw a mock trade the other day on Bleacher Report where they were sending him to Kansas City, which is a divisional opponent, for a couple of prospects that would end up shaking up to being like Thomas Harrington and Kiner Delgado, something like that. Like a package like that is what they had him going to Kansas City for. And it's like, if you're telling me that's what it's going to cost, then like I'm going to do that. And I can probably beat that too if you need me to. So yeah, man, it's just the free agent options aren't good enough. If you go out there and you get Verdugo, I mean, what the other corner outfielders that are out there, Randall Grichuk
at that point,
Jesse Winker, Mark Hanna, Ramon Laureano, like none of these guys are going to do it. It's Profar or Santander. Profar offers a lot of risk. Santander, safe pick, but like you're not landing him. You aren't getting him. Go out there and get Luis Robert. He provides the most upside out of all of the people that we've named. More upside than Santander, more upside than Profar. He's got the most. He's capable of putting up that MVP candidate type season. Like we've seen him do it before. And it wasn't that long ago. It was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he put up just a monster season. If I'm Ben Cherington and it's like, I need to go out there and acquire an impact bat, Alex Verdugo is not the answer.
No.
Randall Grichuk isn't the answer. Luis Robert is a risk, yes. But if it pays off, it pays off.
And what I do want to add here also is like going back to 2023. I mean, Robert's great season. And like you look at all the peripherals, just fantastic. Like he was really good and it was validated. And last year was bad, and we get that. And there's still a side of me, it was mixed. Like I'm not going to say he's proof of this, but he was better this year. But one of the things that we talked about with the Yasmani Grandal, at least I was, is like he's been bad. It's a low risk. It's $2 million it's on him for, blah, 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 whatever. But like, hey, what if he's just bad also because this White Sox organization is just horrible and everyone just hates their life there, it seems like. Well, you know what? Like Robert kind of presents that because again, like he was a good player. He's been good. Last year was just like the White Sox is just a complete dumpster fire of an organization right now, like top to bottom. Okay. And I think there could be real validation to that in the sense of like maybe Robert getting out of there, coming to Pittsburgh, like he gets back to his old self and become like you don't have to worry about like last year so much. So I do think there is some of that to him. Maybe that's me being hopeful again, much like last year with Yasmani Grandal, because I liked the talent of Grandal, although he's a little older at that point in time. But again, like I like the talent of Luis Robert as well. He definitely has it. So maybe getting him out of Chicago, out of the White Sox, getting him into Pittsburgh, starting in fresh, starting new. Now, hopefully, of course, also being healthy. You get that version, or at least part of that version of Luis Robert going forward. So I'm all for. Trust me, I'm all for Luis Robert deal. But again, I worry about the money with the Pirates in that side. I don't. Again, we're talking about 15, 20, 20. That's a lot. That's a big chunk of money for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I think you
Shouldn't
worry
be.
about the 2020 when you get there. That's for future Ben to worry about. That's for future Bob to worry about. The thing that I'm worrying about right now is like you got to make the playoffs in 2025. At the end of 2025, Paul Skeens' Pirates tenure will be 40% complete. 40% of Paul Skeens' Pirates tenure is going to be done by the end of this year.
Yep.
You've got to make the playoffs this year. You can't wait another year. You got to make it this year. And Luis Robert, I think, gives you the best chance of doing that. And I think the $15 million is there. They're at $77 million payroll right now. By all accounts, everybody that we've talked to thinks payroll can get to about $100 million. You bring Robert in at $15 million, you're looking at $92 million bucks. That leaves $8 million for you to go out there and get a couple relievers. Like, I think it's there. I think the money's there. 15 million. Like you addressed your first base hole with nothing except some capital, player capital.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to spend any money on one.
Mm-hmm.
That allows you to spend the money here in this spot. So like you've got to do it. And no other free agents are getting that. Like you're not giving Randall Grichuk $15 million. You're not giving Alex Verdugo $15 million. Like those are all sub $10 million guys. But the trade market is going to present you opportunities. Luis Roberts, the guy. There's a couple other guys too, where we can talk about Taylor Ward, Mike Yastrzemski. If you want to look at the Diamondbacks, perhaps a couple guys there too, with McCarthy or Gurriel. I don't think I
doubt Gurriel, but McCarthy's one.
McCarthy though, I could see. But
when
we're talking about it, like still none of those guys have the upside of Luis Robert.
They don't. They don't. Taylor Ward, safer. Again, I feel he's had the past 3 years. His worst season was a 107 weighted, like in 2023, 107 weighted runs created plus 1.4 WAR, but 3.7, 2.7 around that, right? So he's been a productive player. He's going to be a lot cheaper, and he's 2 more years of control, right, through ARB. So, like, that's appealing for the Pirates. And, like, you're talking about, like, if they get Santander, LA, that makes him, especially now, more available. Yastrzemski, like, that's still a pretty good player.
But like, with Yastrzemski, you're kind of playing. Yastrzemski's like he's going to give you 1.5 WAR. He's probably not going to give you over 2. Like that's just who he is.
Yeah, I get that.
Ward, I am kind of high on Ward. I like him. I think he's a good hitter. Bucko Mike says he was dookie after May last year. No, he wasn't. He was bad heading into the trade deadline, but then after the trade deadline, like he got hot.
Yes.
He had a hell of an August and he had a hell of a September.
You can't have a 2.7 WAR if you're awful after May.
He had a good season last year. If the Pirates would have acquired Taylor Ward instead of Brian De La Cruz, it would have maybe changed some things. That's how much of a difference there was. I would be like if Luis Roberts obviously like my top choice here, but like Taylor Ward is my second. Especially if you see the Angels go out there and get Santander, then maybe they're a little bit more likely to deal Ward. But he's got 2 years left before he's a free agent. He's not making a ton of money. He's probably going to make like $7-8 million this year. He's the next best thing in my opinion as far as the trade market goes. If you can't land Luis Robert, the upside isn't there. Like, I don't think Taylor Ward is someone who's capable of giving you that 5-win season that you could potentially get out of Luis Robert. But Taylor Ward he's going to hit the ball over the fence. He's going to drive in runs. He's going to be a pretty solid hitter for you, and he plays fine defense. So, yeah, if I'm saying like second choice, it's Taylor Ward.
I could agree to that. I could agree to that for sure. And again, he offers some control there for some cheap control, and I don't think it's going to cost, relatively speaking. Like the Pirates have a package that they give that up, and it's not going to hurt them, right? Like you're not mortgaging the farm to get him in that sense, more than Luis Robert. But again, you have more financial flexibility with Taylor Ward opposed to Luis Robert. Like I don't hate Jake McCarthy. But that's so getting back to the whole Verdugo thing. When you're talking about like almost like selling out for defense, McCarthy's shown like he's had some above average seasons. Like that he was a 3-WAR player last year because he also had a bat. Definitely much better than Verdugo, but like defensively also better than Verdugo. Like that's something I look at as like, okay, that's a good defender. We're focusing on it. So if McCarthy also doesn't put up the offense he did last year, there's still real value with the defense. That to me is going that route. Still upside with the bat per se. You're not banking on it because you're not banking on Verdugo's either. But Verdugo's defense is like it's adequate. Like it's better. To me, McCarthy's defense is better. That I would certainly like. I would welcome if they made a trade for McCarthy. I wouldn't hate it. It's not Robert. Doesn't solve the offense. Like, but that's to me like that. I don't hate that move. Like Varsho, I think is a pipe dream. Even if Santander goes to the Blue Jays, like that's their center fielder. I don't see them giving up Varsho, but Varsho fits that mold. You're not getting Varsho because of his offense. It's good enough, but his defense is way better than McCarthy's. But you know what I mean? Like if you're going to sell out for defense, that's the atmosphere you need to be in, not Verdugo.
Yeah, I look at McCarthy as like, I feel like he's got more Kevin Kiermaier in him than somebody that you'd really be serious with offensively. He had a solid offensive season last year. But the year before was pretty bad. And I think he's capable of putting like an average year together. But again, he doesn't solve your problem when it comes to like driving in the runs. Like
he doesn't. But again, defensively, like
defensively,
he's good.
He's good.
A lot of value.
Yeah,
he's very good defensively. In the sense of like, hey, we put ourselves in a situation that we can't put together an adequate lineup that's going to do that. Like we're not going to hit the ball over the fence.
You still got to score runs. Like you can't win every game 2-1. Like you can't. You've got to be able to score runs, and Jake McCarthy doesn't. He doesn't contribute to that. He could. I'm not going to say. I mean, he hit 285 last year, and he had a 349 OBP and a 400 slugging percentage. He had a good season last year. If he replicates that, then he's helping your offense.
The problem is,
can he do that again? Yeah, can he do that?
But if he replicates that, he's Spencer Horwitz almost.
Yeah, probably better even. But I need someone who's going to hit the ball over the fence. Jake McCarthy's not going to do that. I need someone who's going to give you 20 plus homers in his sleep.
Luis.
And that's Luis Robert or Taylor Ward.
Yeah.
You'd probably rather have a lefty bat in there, but I don't think that guy. Like I said, Santander is a perfect fit because of the switch hitting. But
there's a lot of things I'd rather have right now, but we kind of settle with because
yeah, they're just not there. Yastrzemski's probably the most available left-handed bat if he's available. Especially if the Giants land Santander too. But like the upside's not there. The upside's not there with him anyone.
Too, it's only one more year that you have him for,
which is fine.
The problem.
I'm fine with acquiring a rental. Like right now, my concern is 2025. I do not care about 2026 right now. And Ben shouldn't either. Because if 2025 doesn't work out, Ben's not going to be here in 2026. They got to make the playoffs this year. So they got to do something somewhat drastic. They can't just go out there and get a guy. Can't get a guy. You gotta go out there and get someone who's gonna drive in runs and give you a real chance to win baseball games.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that.
And
The only reason I
yeah,
say that is like that could be why they're more in a Taylor Ward type than a Gas. Again, like if I had the option of the two, not only do I like Taylor Ward better as a player, but like he's more controllable. So that's the guy I'm more after because the Pirates aren't really in a situation where it's like we only need a stopgap for this year. So Yastrzemski makes more sense because hey, next year we got this prospect coming up. Like they need a right fielder for some time. So to me, like a Robert Taylor Ward make more sense than Yastrzemski because then they're in the same situation next year. I get what you're saying. This year matters, but other guys are more guys I'm looking to acquire opposed to Yastrzemski because of like I want some control too.
yeah. Jeremy brings up Adolis Garcia.
Do you think
My
he's getting
concern
worse?
with Garcia is that he's on the wrong side of 30. He seems to kind of be the type of player, just like a big guy. Like, how does the body hold up? Once you get to, he's now going to be 32 years old. He's coming off a bad year. Like, I guess maybe if you could get him for like next to nothing, I'd be fine with that because he is a guy who's going to hit home runs. Like, he will give
Mhm.
you that. Um, the rest of it, not great last year, but capable of putting together some good seasons. I think health is going to be a major concern. I think just like the general aging process with him is something to just be worried about. Um, but he can hit the ball over the fence. So like if you're looking at somebody that you can acquire for probably not a whole lot of prospects, I think Adolis Garcia fits that mold. I don't think he has a ton of value right now. And if you're the Rangers and you're looking to maybe shed some payroll, he's a guy who maybe can do that. He's only making $7 million this year, so maybe the Rangers just keep him and hope for a bounce back. Um, I would be okay with Garcia, but again, I would be more excited about Garcia than I would about like Verdugo, just
Yes.
because of the upside capability.
Mhm.
But I feel like the bust potential with Garcia is higher than a lot of the people we've discussed. Like if Garcia, like Luis Roberts, bad year, he's probably still giving you one WAR. Adolis Garcia, bad year, like last year was negative 0.2. And then, it said Taylor Ward here is 31. I know Taylor Ward is 31, but Taylor Ward's not regressing. Like Taylor Ward's not 31 and getting worse. Taylor Ward is 31 and holding steady and looking strong. Adolis Garcia is 32, and he looked a lot worse at 31 than he did 30. So
Right.
there's just a little more concern for me there. But
And
I
like
I would be okay with it. Like I would prefer Garcia to Verdugo.
and like the one thing about Garcia too that gets me is like Luis Robert had a bad year, right? We talk about, but like defensively he still held up. Like that was still fine. Just a good defender. To me, like you're talking about the body, you know, that kind of speaks to me a little bit here. Garcia was awful last year, also defensively. So like it wasn't just the offense declined. Now still had very very good exit velocity, you know, like the numbers and such, but he didn't hit well, and the defense just took a tremendous decline. So it does make me worry, like you're talking about the big body and like how he's aging and such, like if that is an issue here. Because that's also the thing too. Like if Luis Robert is a bad player, he's also at least giving you adequate defense. If Garcia is as bad player was last year, he's also hurting you defensively.
Yeah.
He was
The one thing Garcia's
bad.
doing is he's hitting the ball over the fence. Like
Yes.
he's going to do that at a
Right.
minimum.
Yep. So there's certainly options, but the problem is here's where you're getting with the options, you're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and everyone has like their issues, their problems here. So which of them do you prefer is kind of where we're getting at. So I
Yeah,
don't know,
there's
man.
there's really only one perfect choice, and that's Santander.
Yeah.
He's the perfect choice, but it's like it's just not going to happen.
And as they're asking in the chat, like, yeah, IKF's your shortstop for next year. I think we're sold on that now, right? I think our idea was they maybe trade him, do something
I won't
else.
say
But
I'm
I think
sold on the idea of it, but he is going to be their shortstop.
we're
I
sold
think,
that
going
they're
forward.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Don't be surprised to see some Nick Gonzalez at shortstop too. I think they are really going to give him a shot to play some games there as well.
Cool.
Yep.
So, anyways, should we get out of here?
Let's get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we will be back, of course, for NS9 Live this week. We'll have the point on Friday and 2 emergency podcasts.
That's being ambitious.
One's being ambitious here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as always, guys, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for watching us. We'll be back. Bye-bye.
See you guys. All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.